Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, we're celebrating the closure of the UK's last coal plant at Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station near Nottingham. As the most polluting fossil fuel, because it releases the most greenhouse gases when burnt, it's crazy to think that coal still made up 80% of the UK's energy mix in 1990. Speaking to Tessa Khan, an international climate change lawyer and campaigner and director at Uplift UK, we're asking why ditching coal power after 142 years is such a big watershed moment, and how you all can join the decarbonisation movement at home. Over to Tessa to learn more. Stay curious.
Hello, my name is Tessa Khan. I'm the Executive Director of Uplift, and we support a rapid and fair transition away from oil and gas in the UK.
The fact that the UK, as a major economy, one of the world's, 6 biggest economies, has now completely wiped coal from its energy mix is a huge milestone, and the direction that we need to be heading in if we're going to address the climate crisis. Yeah, I think it was only about 15 years ago that coal-fired power made up a significant chunk of the UK's power generation and overall energy mix. So it's a huge achievement to have completely eliminated it from that in such a short stretch of time. And that's down to a number of different factors, but it absolutely is a huge credit to the climate movement in the UK, who have made it very clear that it's unacceptable for a country like the UK, with the resources that it has, both financial resources, but also alternative, much cleaner sources of energy like renewables, to continue to burn coal. And we have, I think, successfully made the case that a country like the UK has got to be among the first in the world to kick coal out of its energy mix. And it's only by constantly hammering both the climate implications of burning fossil fuels and, of course, the escalating impacts of climate change that we can see all around us, including just in the last few weeks across Europe and North America and in Asia as well, that people are really starting to appreciate how urgent it is that we decarbonise our energy supply. Climate change is driven by the release of carbon emissions into the atmosphere, and the vast majority of carbon emissions are caused by the burning of fossil fuels, which comprise coal, oil and gas. And of those three fuels, coal is by far the most polluting. So getting rid of coal and using alternatives instead has been at the top of the list of priorities for countries like the UK for a number of years now. And the UK committed to actually ending all coal-fired power generation domestically by 2025. It's obviously beat that deadline by a few months, which is great. But given how polluting coal is, it's not just about climate change, I should say. Coal-fired power plants also generate all kinds of other particulate pollution that makes the air really dirty, and it has all kinds of health impacts as well. But there are lots of reasons why getting rid of coal is a huge priority.
Well, actually, this is a real success story in terms of collaboration between trade unions and the companies running the coal-fired power plant to ensure that the 150 people that were employed weren't in any way left behind or disadvantaged by the closure of the power station. So the relevant trade unions worked together, knowing that this deadline for all coal-fired power generation in the UK to stop was coming, to ensure that the workers at that plant were supported into alternative employment. So it's really a good news story for the community and for those workers. Well, yeah, I think this is really the beginning of what we hope will be a rapid and a fair transition away from all fossil fuels in the UK, because, of course, it's historic and absolutely should be celebrated that we no longer have coal-fired power generation in the UK, but we are still a major oil and gas producer. We're the second largest producer of oil and gas in Europe and continue to extract about 1 million barrels of oil and gas a day from the North Sea. The good news is that with the new government that was elected this year, they've made a commitment to end new exploration licensing for oil and gas in the North Sea, which is a really important first step to ultimately, in our view, and certainly according to what scientists and experts tell us is necessary to avert the worst impacts of climate change, we need to make sure that we're not approving any new oil and gas projects. So there's still a bit further to go. Also, crucially, I think, like the process we saw with the closure of Ratcliffe, we absolutely have to make sure that unions and the workforce are at the heart of any transition planning, so that there is a properly funded, comprehensive plan to support communities and individuals who have depended on that industry for decades. And I think that if we can get all of that right, the UK could genuinely make history in terms of showing the rest of the world that a country with its resources, with the historical responsibility it has for contributing to climate change, can step up to the plate and transition away from fossil fuels in a way that's fast enough and that's also fair. There are a number of different ways that people can encourage the government to do the right thing in terms of supporting a just transition away from oil and gas production in the UK. There's currently a legal challenge, actually, that my organisation Uplift, as well as Greenpeace UK, are bringing against the Rosebank oil field, which the last government approved last year, that's being heard in court next month. The website for that case and campaign is Stop Rosebank. And if people want to sign up to receive updates, possibly show up to the actions that we'll be organising to help raise awareness of the importance of not letting Rosebank go ahead, that would be amazing. But I think generally, now that we have a government that's broadly supportive of the transition away from fossil fuels, they realise that more oil and gas in the UK aren't going to contribute to our energy security because we export most of what we produce. It's not going to bring down people's energy bills at home because it doesn't change the price that we pay for these commodities. Just because they're produced here, we end up paying the same price that are set by international markets. So if people could write to their MPs, for example, just to encourage them to be ambitious about this transition and to do the right thing by the communities and the workforce that will be affected, that would be hugely helpful.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
stay curious.